Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to a special sort of game day here at Heavy Cardboard. I am your host, as y'all know, Edward, that dude.
Hi, I'm Ben. Great to be here.
And the other guy is supposed to...
Hi, I'm Ted.
We went through this, guys, man! All right. So, Ben Rosset designed... Ben, you list the bunch, because I'm going to embarrass myself if I do it. Go ahead.
Most people know me from The Search for Planet X and Fromage and Between Two Cities, Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig.
All right. Among other games.
Among others.
And Ted designs, or used to design Aegis theme maps. That's who he is.
Yeah, that's all. That's fine. I think that's all I need.
Really. Just trying to keep you humble, Ted.
Thank you.
No, Ted is the CEO of Bezier Games. You want to list some? Ted, go for it.
Sure. I've designed a bunch of games: Suburbia, Ultimate Werewolf, Castles of Mad King Ludwig. There's a lot of other things on the list there, but I've also done a bunch of development work, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Some of the development stuff we've done with this game that you have not said yet, but we're going to talk about.
We are here momentarily, as well as Maglev Metro, which we recently streamed as well and had a successful Kickstarter recently. Anyway, why are we doing this? What is this? This is about the Game Makers. It's a game that I learned about at the Gathering of Friends back in April, and I'm going to go about this a roundabout way. Just indulge me a little bit here. I am a huge fan of Millennium Blades. Millennium Blades is a level 99 game it's a meta game about playing CCG tournaments. I am not big into CCGs, but I love the meta of it. The Game Makers kind of is a meta, but on something that I do really love and that I'm very passionate about. And that's why I'm so excited about this. So Ben, why don't you tell folks what the Game Makers is about?
Yeah, thanks, Edward. The Game Makers is a board game all about the real board games that we all know and love. In the Game Makers, you are a board game manufacturer, like Panda, for instance, making the best games in the business. It's a simultaneous mid-weight worker placement game. It plays up to 6 players in about an hour.
Yeah. So let's circle back to this a little bit. We're all effectively Panda manufacturing. Individually, we're all Panda manufacturing, and we get to make board games. But I mean, that's cool. I like that. That's meta. But Ted, you guys have gone above and beyond in the publishing of this, not just in the components, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but really tell them what the hook is, the real big hook.
Well, there's a couple hooks, but Ben alluded to these are real games. We have licensed more than 300 games from over 100 publishers, so that we can include them within this game. And you're seeing some on the screen right now, and it's pretty much every type of game you can possibly think of. We have some representation of them in the game, and so these are the games you're making. So if you love a certain game, so my favorite game is Teach You, I can build that game in here if I want to. One of my other favorite games, Age of Steam, is also in here. I could build that if I want to. So all the games you love, you're able to go ahead and create, and there's all sorts of ways to do that, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But because they're real games, you're somehow more attached to them emotionally as you're building them, or avoiding them in some cases, because there's certain games you're like, yeah, I'm never going to play that one. But at the same time, oh, it's so good though, it fits what I'm trying to do, and I gotta have it, and then you hate yourself later, but that's cool. It's
totally. So for me, that's the hook for me. Anybody who watches this channel knows I am a mechanisms first guy. Like the components and the theme and all that is secondary, if not tertiary. However, when I sat down to play this, Ted ran us through a 3-player game of this, and Ted was just kind of GMing and watching us play. And this is one of those super rare games for me that mechanics, schematics, whatever. I drew Age of Steam, and I'm like, I got to make this game. Like, I have to. Like, it was all about the theme, and the theme being first and foremost for me. Thank you in this, as you can see there. And the other really cool thing about this is and we'll go through the mechanisms, and we'll go through the, a little bit how you play and stuff in a little bit. But after you choose, do I make this game? Do I not? Do I use it for components? Once you've actually gone through the process of actually making these games, then at that point, let me show y'all what you do with them. My computer's there. You go. Everybody has a calyx or an expedite. that you get to display your completed games on. So those will have Aegis theme and Through the Ages and like Sekigahara and stuff like that on it. And that is ridiculously awesome. And then there's scoring adjacency and all that. And so, yeah. So look, I'm super excited about it. This, as Ben, you said, this plays, you said in about an hour. I'm going to say an hour and 15, maybe an hour and a half. But hour to an hour and a half. Ben's kind of an expert at this. But my point is, it's a midweight Euro. But it's a game where the theme trumps everything else. And the joy that I get in this game, I enjoy the mechanisms. It's an enjoyable game, don't get me wrong. But the theme takes it to 11 for me. So I am super excited. Anyway, you guys want to talk about the mechanisms and the main mechanism in this, and I'll show folks on this.
Yeah, well, the main so this is the center game board that you're looking at right now, with that amazing Brody knob, this huge knob that you use to turn the center game board like you're driving a forklift around the factory. But it's a so each player has their own forklifts. Those are your workers. And whenever your forklifts are in the ready spot, it's hard to see exactly which one that is here, just to the right of the Brody knob. Whenever any of your workers are there, they get to take an action. And it's simultaneous. So you go ahead and use your workers to advance them along the wheel to gather the components / factory upgrades, and I'll talk about that in a second, that you need to make the games and build your factory. And so it's a timing game. If you've played Fromage, which I also designed, there's a similar kind of simultaneous worker aging system going on here. The further out that you place your forklifts or your workers along the wheel, the better components they're going to get, but the longer it takes for those workers to come back to you.
So if you take a look, if I may, if you take a look at this picture on the left-hand side where the forklifts are, you'll see that there's 3 cards pictured there. That means you get more components. You get 3 cards as opposed to if they were all the way 2 to the right, it's a 1, 2, or 3. You get a upgraded version of it, but you have to wait longer for your workers to come back. Go ahead, Ben.
That's exactly right. Thanks, Edward. There's 3 quality levels of all the different kind of components that you really use to make board games, which is wood, plastics, cards, dice, and punchboard. All those are represented in the game. They're the components that you're going out and you're gathering out higher quality levels of them to complete those contracts that you're seeing on the screen right there. So Mansions of Madness needs 3 cards, a level 1 die, and a level 2 plastic to kind of fulfill that contract to complete that game. The kicker, and for me, the other hook to the game, is that every component that you go gather with your workers is multi-use. You can use in 2 different ways. You can use it to make the games that you've signed contracts for, or you can use them in your factory as factory upgrades. So the wood pieces, for instance, that all look like some version of a meeple, when you gather wood pieces from that central rotating board, you can either use them as wood components that you need to make a game that requires wood, or they can become new workers in your factory, which unlock new special powers for you.
Yeah. And so you have to make these really tough decisions of, am I using this to actually make the game, or one of the contracts, i.e. the games themselves that I'm trying to make, or am I trying to make my factory more efficient, better, faster, stronger, so that I can help me later on this and that. And there's that really difficult push-pull, seesaw of more efficient or immediate, hey, I want to get this made, whatever that might be. And yeah, it's so good. And if we can step away from the mechanisms for a second, Ted, can you talk to, so how many different games have you guys roughly licensed?
It's over 300 right now that we have licensed, which is
how? Talk to folks and because that is way beyond
It was one of those things when we first talked to Ben about this about 2 years ago, and I think for us one of our biggest concern was that particular thing, because we thought for this game to be successful and to be what we wanted it to be and what Ben had envisioned it to be, we were going to have to get a lot of publishers on board to be able to license those games. And so we have an awesome licensing manager, Renee Harris, that has worked tirelessly for the last 2 years contacting publishers, and so many of them were, they knew that Ben was the designer, and they jumped on board. And we were so fortunate that the community, I mean, just all the publishers working together, for this. It was very rare that any publisher just outright said no. No, we want to do this. They all really wanted to be. They're like, this sounds great. We want to be part of this, and that has kind of built it together to make this just fantastic. But an amazing amount of work has gone into getting all those publishers lined up and getting all of these great games. Like I said, there's. We went around the office actually a couple of months ago. We're like, does everyone have their favorite games in here to make sure? And there were a couple that we hadn't gotten yet. We're like, we got to make sure that we grab those to have them in here. And like I saw in the chat, some people were asking about different games, and that's the thing. There's so many awesome games. We can only have so many, obviously, because each game is a card, and you only have so much room in the box to put so many cards in. Yeah, there's a few games on Board Game Geek if you've ever looked actually through the list. It's more than 10. I know that. Yes. But it's amazing that we have all of those in here, and all the publishers. I mean, they're awesome to work with, and it was fantastic that they've all agreed to let us represent them in this game, and you get to build their games, and that's fun for them. It's fun for us. It's fun for the players. It's win-win for everyone. So very excited about that.
And when I was speaking to Jay, who is, I want to get his title right, is he marketing manager, head of marketing for Bezier? And when Jay and I were coordinating this and everything, we were just, honestly, he and I were just shooting the breeze about the game and talking about different aspects that we really like about it and this and that. And he told me about how all y'all are going through each and every card and making sure that the components needed to make the game, both from a game balance standpoint work, but also from a thematic standpoint work. Like, are there dice in this game? Does it make sense to have dice? So on and so forth and all that. Has that been, I'm sure it's been a labor of love, but has it been more labor or more love going through that process? Because I imagine
it's mostly labor of love. Initially, the toughest part is there are games in here that I've never played. They're just outside of the realm of games that I've played with people, and so I didn't know about them. So I'd have to do the research and figure that out and make sure that they're being represented correctly. And we also have what I would call the Age of Steam map problem. I don't know if you've ever noticed the Age of Steam maps aren't entirely geographically accurate, Edward.
I
have a lot of expansions. I just hope you're not using them for planning road trips, because sometimes Pittsburgh is not where you think Pittsburgh is going to be if it's based on like the Age of Steam Great Lakes map. It might be off a little bit or something, because it has to be in order for you to have enough space to get over to Toronto or whatever. Sure. And that's kind of what happened here, but in a different way. Instead of in a spatial way that you have with Age of Steam, cities not necessarily being exactly where they would be to the real world counterparts, we have to make those, some compromises to say, well, this game has a bazillion cards, but it's not a fun game experience for someone to say that you need, as a component, 20 cards, where all the other games maybe require 2 or 3 cards, because that's crazy. So we've had to kind of shift things around and balance things that way, so all the games feel appropriate for their components, but not overwhelming.
I'll just jump in real quick, sorry, Edward, and say that before I signed it with Ted, I was making the first versions of the game and the prototype, and I think I had like 64, games in my prototype, and you had to shuffle a lot because, 64 wasn't really enough, but it took me so long to just balance 64 for my prototype that I was like, I hope we don't actually have to have more than this when we make the game. And then Bezier went and said, no, let's have like 300 instead of 64. I was like, all right, let's do it.
So that's a perfect segue, because that's exactly where we were going next, Ben. Was how okay? Where'd this come from? Where did this game come from? Tell me, everybody, about the process of I had an inkling of an idea to where we are today. Obviously, summarize it, but yeah, I want to know. I always want to know the why and how.
It came from two different places and kind of met in the middle, mechanically and thematically. So mechanically, it came out of Fromage. So I had a great time designing Fromage. And when that game was designed, before it was ever published, I really liked the simultaneous worker placement. And I said, I want to do more with this mechanic. I would like to work on other games that use a simultaneous worker placement. Thematically, about 15 years ago, when I first started designing games, one of the first things I did was design a game about designing board games. And it never went anywhere, it never got published. I haven't even looked at it in like 15 years, but it's always been in the back of my head. I want to get back to that topic. I want to get back to making a game about making games. And so I've also worked at Panda for the last 10 years. I'm the HR director at Panda, so I know about manufacturing. So it just kind of all came together. Simultaneous worker placement, making games, I know about manufacturing, and it just hit me, and I was like, this is the game that I have to make.
And so how did you go from, okay, I have this design, to working with Bezier?
Well, I mean, as you do when you design games, you look for publishers to publish those games. And so I brought the game to Gen Con, I think, a few years ago, and Ted and Renee and I were having lunch at Gen Con. And I think it was kind of like a Panda lunch, because you're a client of Pandas, but in that context. But I said, oh, hey, Ted, by the way, I've got this game. And of course, as a designer, you want a publisher that you think is going to do right by the game, right?
Sure,
that you think is going to be the right fit for that game. And so I had a short list of 3 or 4 publishers that I thought would be right for this game. And Ted was on that list. Bezier was on that list. So we talked at Gen Con. They showed interest right away. And, they played the game. We played on TTS for the first time. They loved it. And here we are.
And okay, so now Ted, take it from your standpoint, from when Ben showed it. What's the appeal, why, and that whole deal?
Yeah, I think, certainly thematically, the one thing, I don't think we've actually covered it in that much detail yet, that really had us super excited here at Bezier about it, was that all of these components you're using to build games have dual purposes. Everything has a dual purpose, and they have a thematic dual purpose. So for instance, the cards that you are gathering, you showed before that you're picking up 3 cards on the warehouse. Well, those cards can be used as cards in other games that you're building, or you can look at those cards, and on the fronts of each of those cards, it has 3 different games, and you can choose one or more of those to actually take as a contract to say, I'm going to build this game, and that card has the requirements on it of what you need. So cards have this dual purpose. The wood, when you go get wood for a game, you're going to get 3 different levels of wood. And that can be either used as wood in a game, or it can be used as workers that you are then placing into your factory that do things for you and make you more efficient and add things. And each of the 5 different types of components that are there has this duality, and they are all board game based. That's the cool thing about this, is that you get dice, and you roll your dice because, well, it could be dice in a game, but that's cool, you need that. Or you're going to apply whatever number you roll to marketing, and you're going to increase your marketing by that much. And so you're doing this, you're always using these components in a way that feels very natural to anyone who's played, even a small number of games. They just naturally feel right to be using these things. And so that by itself, for me, because I tend to shift more towards like, what are the mechanics? What's going to have me interested to play again and do something else? That for me was just so compelling that, and if we hadn't been able to get all these licenses and, we had to do something else in terms of the types of games, I still think the mechanics are really, really compelling that surround it. So that for me was the hook. It was, wow, this just feels right. And I think that was, I could just see there's a gleam in Ben's eye when he was telling us this stuff, when he's telling us each of these things. He's like, all right, we have punch board, but you can use this punch board in your game and get tiles for, or you can fit these tiles together, because that's what you do. You lay out tiles and they connect to each other. And when you connect certain ones, then your factory is more efficient. Now you have a discount on, purchasing card. You don't have to pay as much for cards anymore or whatever. And all of these things that they flowed so nicely together that, it's just hard. It would have been very hard for us to say no, I think, at that point. Because I was really invested in how it worked, and that for me is key.
And that's got to feel good for Ben, be like, oh, I got the boss of the company foaming at the mouth, excited about this. This seems like a good match.
Yeah, Ted got it right away, and Renee got it right away, and that's what you want as a designer. You want a publisher that's super excited about the game.
Right. I mean, because if they're passionate about it, then it not only becomes more collaborative, but that passion comes through both from the publishing of it, the marketing of it, and just the whole 9 yards, right? It makes sense.
We've tried to, just adding on to what Ted said, besides the components, even in the scoring of the game, tried to make it as meta and as board game industry as possible. So there's different types of games, right? There's like card games or set collection games. There's cooperative games. There's war games, like Mansions of Madness is a cooperative game there. The card set collection games score in a set collection way. The war games score like a Seven Wonder style military battle that you're having against the other people at the table, trying to have more military games than they do. The cooperative games actually score in a cooperative way where you work with other people around the table. So we try to re-infuse the theme back into how the mechanics work at every possible step.
Yeah, and you can see that on the bottom of some of the cards, that scoring aspect of it. Memoir 44, even though it's a lighter war game, it has that aspect of it there as well. You can see on the bottom of the screen. Anyway, continue, please.
I was going to say that I remember from Ben's pitch, there's just this sparkle in his eyes. He's telling us about what he just said, as well as when he got to engine building games, which are the yellow games there. And if you look at the Obsession game, that actually gets you more stuff. So it actually builds your engine. It gives you cards. It gives you trees, which are a part of the game mechanics. And a lot of the engine building games, some score points too, but all of them add more resources and give you more stuff. And why is that? Because they're engine building games. And again, I remember very clearly when Ben told us this, that he was very pleased with himself, and we were very pleased with him, that this all kind of worked together so well that it felt very natural. Like, as soon as he said it, we're like, oh my gosh, yes, of course, that's so obvious. Thank you for putting it in here, because this is fantastic.
And I love the tree aspect of this, because it's kind of a eco-friendly aspect of, because let's face it, it uses a lot of cardboard. The games in general, I'm saying. So the fact that you've made a nod towards trying to be eco-friendly in the game as well, I think is a nice touch. So that's awesome. Yeah, I see that Dan Halligan from Bezier Games, Obsession designer and publisher, is in chat. He's excited that we got a chance to show off his game that is in your game. Again, it's so meta. One other little anecdote I wanted to share. When Jay and I were talking about this game and setting everything up and whatnot, or maybe it was, I think it was Jay. Yeah, it was Jay. Said, so you guys are, Ted, you're based in Tennessee.
Yes.
And the guys from Galactic Cruise are also in Tennessee.
They're Chattanooga. We're in Knoxville. Yeah.
Okay. And there was either a local convention or a meetup or something along those lines. And TK and the designers, publishers of Galactic Cruise were there, and they were playing the Game Makers. And TK drew Galactic Cruise. And everybody was like, oh, he's got to make that. But he's like, no, it's going to become components. And everybody was like, oh, no, you can't not make your game, because once you've made that decision, that game's never going to get made. So it's almost a emotional tug when you're deciding, no, I'm never going to make this game. There goes Catan or something. And it makes you either feel really evil in a good kind of way or dirty and you feel bad because you're not making the game. So it hits on the, again, it's so funny to me that I'm coming at this and I'm gushing about a game's theme when that is so not the norm for me. And that's why this game hits for me so well, because it hits in a different way that almost no other game outside of maybe an Obsession, to where that theme is tied so intimately to the game and it hits so well. And I love my meta aspects of things that, yeah, I was excited when I played this. I sat down and I was like, hey, Ted, Ben, can we announce it? Because I'm really, really excited about this. And you guys were like, yeah, let's make that happen. So I appreciate it. So what else? What else you guys want to say about this? What's the publishing path, timeline, and all that?
So we're gearing up. We're going to be doing a Kickstarter at some point after Gen Con. So I believe there's a link on the YouTube page right now. That'll take you there to get notified when that goes live. But it'll be sometime after Gen Con. We're going to be showing it at Origins next week. We're going to be showing it at Gen Con in August. And so you're going to be able to see it there. And we have almost everything is done. What you're seeing images of a prototype, of course. This is, all made locally. There's very, very little that was actually produced otherwise. But the one thing I did want to touch on that we haven't really talked about yet is that, if you look at the front of the box there, you'll see the Bezier Games logo in the lower right corner. But you'll see the Panda logo in the lower left corner. And that's really important because, for us, this, we wanted to do something, and the fact that Ben happens to work also, I mean, his quote unquote real job is at Panda, that's nice. But not, I know, but I don't think all of Ben's games have not been manufactured by Panda, but a lot of them have because he's there. But we know people at Panda. I've worked with Panda now for, I think it was like 2007. They printed out one of the first games for us. I think it was Ultimate Werewolf back then, and they are actually partnering with us to help, basically come up with super innovative things that we're doing. One thing that I have here, I'm going to show on my screen is the forklifts, and this is really, really small, so you're going to have a hard time seeing it probably on here trying to get this.
No, that actually is pretty good. Yeah.
All right. This is a combination metal and plastic forklift, and these are the workers that you're going to be moving around, and these are amazing. They have some heft to them because they're partly metal, which you need a forklift to be. And of course, there are different player colors. But, it's because we're working with Panda that we're able to make these types of components that, you didn't see the wheel in motion. Right now, you just have a static image, but they're able to make that, which is, there's this really cool base to it, a plastic base, and the Brody knob that you hold on to and move around. You actually you steer it around like you do a forklift wheel. It's really, really cool. And again, all of this stuff, we've worked with Panda on almost all of our titles over the years. They've done some amazing things for us, and they were by far the partner we'd want on this anyway, but they have just embraced this, and they basically become a real publishing partner for us to make the best game possible. And so, they're great to work with anyway, but they're even more great to work with for this because they're so excited about it, because obviously for them, this hits super close to home. I mean, this is what they do, right? So they want to have that show up as possible, and so do we. And so that's been a great partnership, is working with them on this. So I'm gonna make sure that they got called out for it, because manufacturing, you always think they're behind the scenes, and obviously they're a very, very important part of the publishing workflow. And we're thrilled to be working with them on this. Things are moving along really well on this, and we feel really confident in being able to get this game out as quickly as possible, and at a reasonable price, because there's so much stuff in it. It's amazing how much stuff is in this game. It's incredible.
When I originally saw, let me bring up that picture again. Give it a second to load up. When I saw the picture of that, and I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool way to keep the prototype, and you're like, no, this is really how it's going to be. And I was like, no, seriously, are you kidding me? And Ted was like, no, really, we spent a lot of time trying to make this work, and so I guess I don't want to say this in any kind of like a derogatory way, but the toy factor in this is pretty high as well. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, again, it's you have the forklift steering wheel, and and
as a publisher, and I mentioned this to Ben. I mean, one of the things that people come to visit us, we show them our little warehouse. We have a little warehouse for like direct orders and things like that, and it's big enough though for us to have our own forklift, which just excites me as a typical guy who likes fun big machinery of stuff. So the fact that we have a forklift is super exciting, and it's fun, and to be able to design something around kind of a forklift thing, because this is what you're doing in a manufacturing company. You're getting pallets of stuff. You're going and you're pulling them over to different places, and they're getting assembled and put together. And for us to actually turn that into a game, as far as I know, I haven't seen forklifts in any other game. I could be wrong, but I think we're the first to use forklifts this way, and it's pretty cool. And the big giant steering wheel is also really cool. It's put together with magnets. It's this really smooth feeling. You can describe it probably better since you had a chance to play.
Yeah, so and I'm gonna come back to that picture as well. But no, the fact that it's literally, I wasn't sure that it was going to be in a final edition. That's why I didn't say anything. But the fact that the steering wheel is held on by magnets, and when you move it, it's a rondelle that it moves and it pushes things along as far as. And that also changes what actions are more powerful and weaker. And the weaker meaning you get your workers back quicker. And it works, and it's smooth. Is it necessary? No. Is it awesome? Yes. And so, yeah. And speaking of unnecessary, but also awesome, all the player pieces come in shipping containers. So you get your own shipping containers to put together your player board, and because of course you do. Of course you do. So yeah.
Because it has something to do with board games, and we wanted to loop everything back into like, how's this really done in the industry? So
yeah,
good. Yeah.
I mean, look, anybody that watches this channel is already pretty deep into the hobby. This is an homage to the hobby that now you get to be the decision makers, right? Now, that's not how it works in real life. Panda's not deciding what games get made. Publishers bring the games to Panda, but now you get to be the publisher and the manufacturer. And I think it's really cool. I'm just super, super jonesing for it. So again, Ted, time frame, and also people are going to ask. So I'm just going to throw it out there. You can choose to decide how to answer. Time frame, player count, cost, and delivery. All those aspects people are going to ask, and also people are also going to ask about the list of games. So all those, balls in your court. Go for it.
Yeah, I could just run off a list of the games real quick, but that would use up all the
take
rest
a while.
So we're not going to do that. But there's a lot of games here. It's likely one of your favorite games is in this list, so that's good. As far as time frame goes, again, we have our Kickstarter starting sometime after Gen Con. We don't have an exact date, but it's going to be within a month or so after, so end of August, early September, somewhere around there. And we're hoping to deliver next year, early next year at some point. Not maybe not Q1, but at least Q2 of next year. What else did you have there? Oh,
player count.
Player count is 1 through 6. So it has a really cool solo version where you're kind of playing against a bot player that has a few advantages that you get to play. It does play up to 6, and I don't think we highlighted this enough, but this is simultaneous play. So like many other of Ben's games at this point, the Between series of Cities and Castles and Fromage, you are playing at the same time as other people. So you get so much game here. You were saying, maybe an hour and a half. We think actually, it really depends on the slowest player. Whoever the slowest player is, that's what you're going to be with. And that's normally the case. But in this case, you're not waiting for that player all the time, just sitting there going, I wish it was my turn. Because it's kind of everybody's turn all at the same time. And you're able to just go ahead, take your forklift out in that ready spot, which is the first open spot there, and place it in any one of those things. And even after if you've run out of forklifts and someone else hasn't placed theirs yet, there's things you can do on your player board. I mentioned before, there's workers that you can place. There's, managing the resources that you've been collecting for games and determining, do I want to build this game yet, or do I want to hold off a little bit? There's important placement considerations for games about how close they are to other games, and they have a certain thing. So there's a lot to think about too, even when if you have to be waiting for someone. But in general, you're not waiting very long. Even when you're playing with people who are notoriously AP prone or a little slower, unless they're super super chatty, which there's some gamers that they're AP prone and chatty, and then everything slows down.
I feel seen.
Right, that works. The games really do go quick. We are
they do
player games within easily 45 minutes. So they go really really fast. A 6-player game with people who are experienced definitely can be done in an hour. It really doesn't take much longer when you start adding people. Again, it's the slowest player. The player is going to take a little longer, or the newest player who's just learning the game. But even for a first game, it really hasn't taken ever more than about an hour and a half for people who are learning things. And they still have questions and things to do. All right. So
there's one other question that I forgot to ask. That whichever one of you wants to take this, can y'all explain the tiebreaker?
I love the tiebreaker. Can I, Ted? I'm going to jump in.
Okay.
I
wasn't going to mention it, but
man.
Jay is in chat, so.
And I give the credit to Bezier. I don't know. We talked about it. I don't know whose idea, but Bezier made it happen regardless. So the tiebreaker for the game is whoever made the highest ranked game on BGG, the real BGG list.
At the time of playing.
At the time of play, because the BGG top list continually changes. So you actually scan a QR code on your score sheet, and it will tell you what the highest rated game you made on the BGG list is for tiebreaker purposes. And shout out to BGG for approving this and working with us to make this happen as well.
Yeah. When I explained to Scott what we were doing, he was very excited. It did not take him long at all to say, absolutely, that sounds awesome. It is a super fun tiebreaker. Even if you're not tied, we have a place for it on the score sheet for you to write down, to scan and actually write down what your highest ranked game is. So right now, as of where we're in June 2025, if you have Brass Birmingham and you tied, you're going to win, because that's the number one game on BGG right now. That of course is subject to change. As much as people think, oh, that'll never change. They do change.
They do.
There were games when I started in the hobby, I don't remember what they were, but I know for a long time, Tigris and Euphrates was like number 1 or number 2, and a bunch of games were like that, and everything has shifted. Agricola had been number 1 for quite a while, and all sorts of things, and those all do shift over time. And the fact that it's live, that's exciting. If you play 5 years from now, those games, they're still going to be in the BGG database. They're just going to be in a different order, though. And so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's the little piece de resistance that just ties everything together. We when we were playing, Scott or Aldi, owner of BGG, he came over and we were all talking about that, and he was asking, so what won it? What was the highest ranked game? And yeah, that's the kind of game this is, that whether if you're playing it somewhere public, whether it's at your local game meetup or at a convention or whatever, it's going to bring a crowd around, and people are going to ooh and ah and be like, oh, what games did you make? Let me see your Calyx shelf and all that. So yeah, good stuff. I am super stoked. Sounds like we are going to be working, obviously, together during the Kickstarter, so you're going to see at least one playthrough hopefully 2 multiplayer as well as solo for the campaign. So I'm looking forward to that. And you said Bezier is going to be at all the major conventions and have this for people to demo.
Absolutely, yeah. Origins and Gen Con, absolutely, and then we'll even after the Kickstarter for Essen and PAX, we'll have it available for people to try out. So whatever conventions you're going to, hopefully we'll likely be there, and hopefully you'll have a chance to, if nothing else, at least stand by and watch people playing, but hopefully get in there and get a game going.
Awesome. All right. So, Ben, how can people find you because you're not on social media much, but your website and stuff?
Yeah, best place to find me is my website, which is benrosset.games, ROSSET, benrosset.games. You can catch up on some news there and sign up for the newsletter that I send out like once or twice a year, if you'd like, on my site.
All right, and Ted is everywhere, Bezier Games, but also
okay.
Ted.
Yeah. We're busy. Yeah. I did want to. There were a lot of questions that came through. We didn't get to.
Sure, no, go for it. Go for it.
Came out really early, and they were saying, would be funny if you could make Game Makers as a game in there, and of course you can. So we put the game in itself. So it's super meta. It does not rupture the space-time continuum whatsoever by playing this. We've tested it to make sure, but you're actually able to go ahead and build this game. So it's kind of fun.
That's awesome. Just the nerd level of Ted and his excitement level, it's giddy. I'm excited for everybody involved in this. It's a game I believe in. It's a game that I think is going to do well, but also is ridiculously fun to play. And I try and avoid using the word fun because one person's work is another person's fun and vice versa. But I think genuinely, if you're into the board game hobby, the meta on this hits on so many different levels. I think there's a spot on people's shelves for this, and I can't wait to play it. So hurry up and send me the prototype, will you? Okay. All right. So that's a wrap. That's a big thanks to Ben and Ted for doing this, and Jay and everybody else over at Bezier for putting this together today. I'm excited for y'all, so be looking forward to standing by for the news post Gen Con. All right?
Thank you, Edward. Really appreciate it.
No, thanks for doing this, guys. I appreciate the opportunity because, again, it's a game I'm excited about. And I want to highlight it, and I think you're both a couple of good guys, like genuinely good humans, and I like celebrating as well as supporting good people in the industry. So I think you're both that. So yeah, I'm happy and continued success to both of y'all. So I'm Edward.
I'm Ben.
I'm Ted.
There we go. All right, we'll see y'all later. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.